Did you know you should aerate your lawn every year to keep it healthy? I hope you didn't, because it's not true. That's just one sticky landscaping myth that Chip and I are going to dispel. There's a bunch more that gardeners believe that may be wasting your time and your money. Today we are going to discuss 12 landscaping myths you should stop believing and what we recommend you do instead. Starting with, what do we start with, Chip? So if your lawn gets a volleyball game once a week or kids running around on it every single day and you know it's compacted, it's a good chance aeration will benefit you. What I'm opposed to is just that people say, oh, I didn't aerate my lawn this year, as if it's a mortal sin. Many lawns don't need aeration every year, especially if you're using the right kind of products to feed your soil and make your soil full of life. If it's full of life and healthy soil, it's going to have an excellent exchange of air and water. It's going to be good at feeding the lawn. It's going to be almost a self-sustaining soil and lawn, not something you have to keep doing added inputs like aeration and dethatching. Unnecessary aeration usually only wastes a little time. The next myth can cause people to apply far more chemicals than a landscape actually needs. Of course, our goal is not to use chemical pesticides or herbicides, but sometimes they're necessary. Now, when they're necessary, they need to be handled very carefully and very precisely. These can cause big problems if you over-apply them even a little bit. Burning of plant material, damaging beneficials, damaging the ecosystem in general. So you need to go exactly by the label rates. You have to know exactly why you're applying them. Some of the organic products are good for soil, good for plants. You don't have to worry so much about the specifics. But with the chemical pesticide, you need to know exactly what you're applying it for, and that will determine exactly how much you have to use and what you need to use. So there's a lot more precision involved in using chemical products. Chemicals aren't the only landscaping product that people add too much of. There's another popular material that people mix into clay soil believing it will fix it. It might not be a complete myth. If you added enough sand, it probably would loosen heavy clay soil, but just sand by itself would take an incredible amount of material to change clay. And usually what happens is if you use a little bit of sand and clay, you make concrete or bricks. So you actually would create a material that's worse if we infuse that clay soil with microbiology of all kinds and some organic matter. We can change clay soil. In addition to infusing your soil with life, is to use some kind of top dress mulch. The way that changes clay soil is pretty amazing. Speaking of materials that promise to solve a problem permanently, there is one product placed under thousands of landscapes every year that rarely lives up to its reputation, and that's why I avoid it. It might temporarily stop weeds from the bottom, but what happens after you use landscape fabric is you usually get accumulation of debris and such, and weeds growing on top of the landscape fabric, and then they go into the landscape fabric, and that kind of creates a bigger problem. Also, it does impede water penetration and nutrient and soil amendment penetration. That's why I don't like to use it when it's around plants. It tends to do a good job, I think, a relatively good job in stone areas, in DG areas, in areas without living plants. So landscape fabric does not permanently fix weeds. But can this next amendment maybe solve all your problems? It is a common conclusion that I have this natural product, and if I used an inch or inch and a half of it, it'd be good. But if I used 3 or 4 inches, it'd be even better. That is a mistake because it can cause imbalances in salt. It can cause nutrient imbalances in general and excess phosphorus. Usually 1 to 2 inches of compost, either as a top dressing or if you're going to till it into your soil, is a reasonable amount. You need to do it maybe once or twice a year and be balanced with it. Now, another really good way to do that is our own product line, which we call concentrated compost. Our John and Bob's products are easier to use, harder to over-apply, and they do break down very, very slowly. Too much compost can create nutrient problems, but when gardeners see yellow leaves, many mistakenly assume the plant must need more nutrients. Here we'll uncover the truth. Yellow leaves can be caused by a lot of different things, including overwatering, underwatering, different types of soil problems. The other cause of yellow leaves is a fairly common situation where the plant can't take up the nutrients that are in the soil, and that is really common with iron. And so the best way to address that is improve the health of the soil through life in the soil. You can create a soil that allows plants to uptake all its nutrients that it needs that are present. Lively soil is really the key to having plants that don't look yellow. One of the most common causes of yellowing chlorotic leaves is improper watering. Unfortunately, many people have been taught to water incorrectly. There are a few instances where light, frequent watering would be preferred for a short amount of time. If you just plant seed for a lawn or you just plant sod, you have to do frequent light watering to keep those roots moist or to keep the seed moist. Even when you just plant plants and it's really hot, the first few days to the first few weeks, I might advocate for frequent light watering because we want to keep all those root balls moist so they'll start to root out into the native soil. But as soon as possible, we want to transition towards infrequent deep watering. That promotes deep rooting. Deep rooting is what I want in all my plants. Really, the cause of a lot of disease problems in the landscape is water. And if we can avoid the amount of times we have standing water, we're going to avoid a lot of common diseases. And that brings us to something many homeowners bag and throw away for no good horticultural reason, thinking they're doing something good for their landscape. In general, grass clippings don't promote thatch, although there is a proper way to use it. Usually what promotes thatch is the slower decomposing stems and roots of the lawn. The clippings themselves aren't a problem. They're particularly not a problem if you use a mulching mower. Those clippings will break down quickly. They feed the lawn a little bit. They feed the soil a little bit. It's my preferred way of mowing a lawn. Leaving grass clippings behind can actually reduce some of the work your lawn requires. But there is another type of plant that some people believe requires absolutely no work at all. There might be some very rare instances where that's true, the perfect plant. But for the most part, when you're using them in your landscaping, they require water and care, especially if they're native plants that are a little bit outside of your exact area. They can be a little bit finicky, and sometimes it can be difficult to find the perfect native plant for your environment. You could find native plants that are native in regions close to you that require all kinds of care. Very close to us, coast redwoods occur, and Monterey pines in our area require a lot of water and care, even though we're 150 miles away or so from their native habitat, and their native habitats are in California. Native plants aren't a panacea. They still need careful management, careful selection, and they can, in the long run, be lower maintenance. Native plants still need the right resources, but those resources probably won't come from sprinkling your breakfast leftovers around the garden. All of these materials contain nutrients, but for the most part, they're very, very slow to break down and to become beneficial in the landscape. You might be able to treat them in a way to make them more effective. With eggshells, you can grind them into a fine powder. Then they become a viable source of nutrients for your soil and your plants. Coffee grounds can create problems if you use too much of them and too thick a layer. It can make it so water just runs off of it. So coffee grounds in small amounts, they can do a little bit of good, but even those take a long time to realize the benefits. There are other materials you could use, like earthworm castings or good quality compost that would work faster. Almost all of these products and kitchen scraps put together are a lot more effective if you compost them. Homemade remedies aren't always as effective as people hope, but when gardeners see whitefly or aphids, they often swing too far in the opposite direction. The reason I like to avoid using pesticides on aphid and whitefly is because the organic alternative not only does a better job killing whitefly and eradicating whitefly and aphid, but at the same time, it's fantastic for your trees and your plants. Use a little bit of our blend over the root zone, and then you use about 1.5 to 2 inch layer of earthworm castings. And the amazing thing is, it works, and it works fast. The magic reason why earthworm castings work on top of our blend is really chitinase, and chitinase is a natural pesticide that's made by plants that aphid and whitefly happen to be very sensitive to, and it's quite present in earthworm castings. Sometimes organic life appears in the landscape in ways homeowners assume is a sign of trouble. That isn't always true. I get a lot of questions about it. A mushroom doesn't mean you have a fungal disease. In fact, kind of the opposite. It means things are active, you have some fungi in your soil, and you have organic matter. Fungi break down that organic matter and mushrooms appear. The mushrooms are best just removed and disposed of, and usually over time, as you continue to properly maintain your yard, those pressures will decrease. When you have a fungal disease, a lot of times on a lawn, it's a lot uglier than mushrooms. Landscaping myths stick around because they sound so logical, but understanding what's actually happening in your soil, plants, and lawn can save you time, money, and a whole bunch of unnecessary work. And if you want to uncover even more landscaping myths, click here to watch a previous video on myths.